Well, despite the fact that we're several months into the new rule changes for realtors that also affect home buyers and home sellers, there's still a lot of confusion out there because there's a lot of misinformation in the media. So, in today's video, we're going to take just a few minutes to cover the highlights and key points of the changes to help both home buyers and home sellers understand what has changed as well as what hasn't changed. So, let's get straight to it. First off, we're going to talk about three things today as far as what has changed and what hasn't changed, what has changed for sellers, and what has changed for buyers. So let's talk about what hasn't changed. First off, commissions are still negotiable. This was the same before the rule changes took effect. It's still the same today. Now, each brokerage sets their own policies as far as how they handle commissions. Some brokerages have set commission rates. They don't allow their agents to negotiate commissions. Others allow agents to negotiate their own commissions rates. Each brokerage handles that differently. Along those lines, consumers have a choice as to which brokerage and commission model they want to work with. They're not locked into any specific commission rate or commission model. It's all negotiable for them to select based on what they feel like the value is versus what they're paying. Another key point here that is a lot of confusion around it is sellers can still pay the buyer's agent commission or compensation. This has not changed. This is still an option for sellers. We'll dig into this a little bit more in just a moment. Also, consumers still have the option to represent themselves as a buyer or seller without paying an agent at all. They've always had this option, again, as much flexibility as they want to pay little or nothing or as much as they feel like the value that their agent brings to the table for them. It's all negotiable. Now, as far as specific changes affecting sellers, sellers are no longer required to provide offers of compensation to buyer's agent when listing their home in the MLS system. Before the rule change, sellers were required to offer even a minimal amount of compensation to list their home in MLS system. This is no longer the case. Now, for sellers who do want to continue offering buyer's agent compensation, they cannot promote that through the MLS. Listing agents are prohibited from listing any seller's compensation towards buyer's agents through the MLS. You can still promote it offline in terms of social media groups, home flyers, brokerage websites. It's just not allowed to be promoted through the MLS. Changes affecting buyers. Agents, and this is a huge one, and buyers are struggling to get used to this change, but agents can no longer show a home to a buyer, even a family member, without a signed agreement first. Agreements are required for both in-person and virtual showings. So even if you're working with an agent long distance, just doing virtual showings, the agent has to have that signed agreement before they can show you the home. Now, there are two exceptions to that rule. First off, open houses. So if you enjoy just going through open houses on the weekends, you're able to do that without signing a representation agreement. Or if you have an agent from a brokerage that has the listing or a listing agent showing you the house, you're not required to sign a buyer's representation agreement either because they represent the seller in that case. So those are the two exceptions as far as the signed agreement goes. Now, the buyer's agreement must state how much the agent is getting paid and who is paying them. Now, some agreements will state that the buyer's broker will first seek compensation from the seller. However, if the seller is not willing to pay part or all of the buyer's agent compensation, the buyers will be responsible for that difference. So if you have a seller that's only willing to pay half of the buyer's agent compensation, the buyers are responsible for the additional half. Or if you happen to have a situation where the seller's not offering any buyer agent compensation, the buyers will have to pay all that out of pocket. Now, the market will influence some of these changes. For example, many sellers still offer buyer's agent compensation in a buyer's market. And at the shooting of this video, many markets in the US are in a strong buyer's market. With that, many sellers are still offering buyer's agent compensation to be competitive among the many homes that buyers have a choice of. Offering the buyer's agent compensation makes listed homes more appealing to more home buyers, so you deepen and broaden that buyer pool of potential buyers for listings that are offering the buyer's agent compensation when you have a lot of seller compensation competition out there. Now, at some point, when we start tipping back to a seller's market, at least in some markets, that will give leverage to sellers to consider reducing the amount of compensation they offer to buyers' agents. Now, not offering buyer's agent compensation, as we just talked about, may limit the buyer pool for homes of home sellers not offering that. But in a strong seller's market, they may not need to offer as much to help get a great buyer for their home. Again, market conditions as they change will fluctuate and dictate what sellers need to do to remain competitive in their various markets. If you'd like more detailed information, you can visit facts.realtor. They have great detailed information for both home buyers and home sellers. Feel free to check out that website to get more details. And as always, if you have any other general real estate questions we can help with, just message us. We're happy to help with those as well. And as always, if we can offer any other services or any other questions for you, just reach to us, message us. We're happy to offer any expertise that we have. Hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.